Hi, welcome everybody to Leadbetter Live. We're delighted here today to have the pleasure of Dr. Robert Winters. Dr. Robert Winters, hi, how are you doing?
Hello, Stuart. It's good to have everybody here.
Yeah, fantastic. First of all, everybody, I hope you're all staying safe, staying well. The topic today is to talk about the one-shot mindset. For those of you that are tuning in, you may already know who Dr. Robert Winters is, and for those of you who don't, let me introduce him a little bit. So, more commonly known as the Confidence Doctor, Dr. Robert Winters is our resident sports psychologist and performance expert at the worldwide headquarters for Leadbetter Golf at Champions Gate, Florida. Dr. Robert Winters played golf at all levels throughout your amateur and professional career and has over 45 years of experience. You were a Division I college coach at the University of Virginia, charter member and creator of the Nike Golf Schools in 1992. And what's interesting today was I was reading a little bit about it. You've consulted over 75 collegiate teams over the past 25 years. It's quite impressive. Author, co-author of 5 books and many more on the way. We were just talking before we came live. So Dr. Robert Winters, fantastic to have you here. I've had the pleasure of spending time around you at headquarters, and it's always inspirational to see you interact with the students. And hopefully for the viewers today, we're going to get some real golden nuggets around the one-shot mindset. But Good. I'd love to ask you a little bit about, how did you get into the world of kind of mental performance and sports psychology?
Well, when I first started, there really wasn't any college programs, any accreditations for sports psychology. We just sort of started on our own, and I started getting involved in hypnotherapy and visualization. And I was introduced to a wonderful person by the name of Dr. Herbert Price, who was a great sports vision optometrist who lived in Indiana, where I was living at the time. And I actually, associated myself with him at the Sports Vision Center of Indiana. And we started finding out everything about the visual system and how the vision, drives the motor system directly. And everything we do in life, about 85% of all of our information comes to us via our eyes, okay? So what I was doing with that, we were traveling around and doing a lot of work with college teams and Indiana Law Enforcement Academy and different things like that. And that sort of helped me matriculate to the University of Virginia to be with, a wonderful group of people such as Dr. Bob Rotella and Dr. Linda Bunker, Dr. Bob Covert, some great thinkers, and who were really, world class, who sort of, groomed me along with Dr. Herbert Price and a lot of the sports vision people in the world. And then I had the sports psychology. So I'm sort of a hybrid here. I come from not only a sports vision background, but a sports psychology, educational psychology, physical education, physiology. So I'm sort of wear a lot of different hats. But where I really found, that mental training was super important to me was when I was 17 years old. And I'm going to go back and reflect on this story because I think everyone can relate to this. I was playing in this Mid-Indiana conference. I played in the high school team, and I was very, very small at the time. And my game, I had a great short game, but my short game was my long game. I was so small, I didn't really hit it, all that far. So I had to rely on my intestinal fortitude, my guts, my thinking, my heart. But I also had to have a great short game, wedge game, great putter. And I remember in this tournament, we were playing at a course called Green Acres Golf Club, a rugged golf course. And I remember my whole focus for that entire day was just to play, smart golf, to play one shot at a time, to stay in the moment. And I didn't even know really what I was doing at the time, but I was trying to make the smallest numbers I could. I knew that par was always good. If I made a birdie along the way, that would be great too. But I was thinking more of the total as I was just trying to think about one shot. But I was trying to do the very best I could. I didn't total my score, Stuart, until after the 17th hole. I made a nice 4-footer for par. And as I was walking from the 17th green to the 18th tee, I heard the defending state champ, 2-time state champ, say to another guy, I think, Bob is about 2 or 3 shots ahead of me here, and he's going to win. And I heard this other, young player say, Well, I don't know. We might be playing with the next state champion. And so as I'm walking to the tee, I hit a great drive down, the fairway. I crushed it 210 yards. For me, that was huge. It was a par 5. But as I was walking down the fairway, my head just started sort of drifting off, and I started getting ahead of myself. I started thinking about how proud my parents would be of me. I started thinking about the gold medal I'd be wearing around my neck, about the newspapers that have my picture in the paper. I was actually drifting and projecting into the future. So I really wasn't playing golf at that time. I was, playing, let's give a speech. Let's listen how nice it's going to be for people to congratulate me. And so you probably know really what happened. In the next couple of shots, I blew up. I actually, missed the green. I wasn't there, in regulation. And then I'm in a bunker. And then I leave my ball in the bunker. And then all of a sudden, my heart started pounding. I said to myself internally, I'm losing this. I'm losing this. I'm choking. And I actually sculled, the next one over the green, got it on the green, and I 3-putted. I ended up making an 8 on a hole. I don't think I ever made anything more than maybe a 6 in previous rounds I played this golf course. Totally devastated, unbelievably devastated. I remember sitting in my car as if it was today, just bawling my eyes out. I was a senior. It was perhaps my last, competitive tournament. I didn't know I was going to go on and play in college, let alone play in professionally. But I realized, back then, how devastating that is. And so how important it is to be in the moment, because all of us have actually gotten ahead of ourselves, or we've actually gone back into the past, and we're all over the place with our thinking. So when I start talking to amateur players, collegiate players, tour players today about what's the most important aspect of playing golf, and it is the aspect of being in the now, playing one shot at a time. That is the lesson I learned very, very much the hard way. And what I'm trying to do with this webinar is to help people not go through that pain and frustration and humiliation that I did. But it is a great lesson story. And I've always heard that many times we learn our best lessons from great failing versus our major successes. And that's really how I got into it. Started doing sports psychology, started traveling around the United States, talking, working with people. And I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I was doing it even before I became Dr. Robert Winters. I had my master's degree. And I would really just go up and I would start asking the best players in the world, what's the best way to think? How do you create confidence? And so I was lucky enough many, many years ago. Now I've been with David and the Leadbetter family for now over 20 years. And I think David realized at the time that I have a great passion, a great love for helping people. But what we have to help people understand is that this game, it isn't easy. No, that's the thing. It's not easy at all. In fact, it's very difficult. And when we start talking about physical training being difficult, learning the technique, learning the skills, the mental training is very, very difficult, because it's hard many times to quantify really, how confident are you? How much do you believe? Where's your, gut level? How much heart do you have? What's your motivation level? So that's sort of how I really got into all of this. And it's been a fantastic journey, these many, many years. And every day is new, because I, like David and everyone else at the Leadbetter family, we work one student, one at a time. I work on the human being model, because everyone is like a snowflake. That is, obviously there are similarities, but there's many differences as well. And you have to be able to understand that this is a very unique, human being in front of you.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And in the learning from the failings, I think we all do that as coaches and as golfers as well, especially if you've got the right mindset. And, from a coaching point of view for me as well, you know, dealing with everybody individually, you can't have a method. You can have a framework or a philosophy, but you need to always be adaptable. And I think watching you in action is definitely unique to see how you kind of deal with people individually and get the most out of them. And you know, I think we've got a couple of questions coming and we will get to those, but just before we do, it'd be interesting for the viewers to hear a little bit more from you exactly as to what the one-shot mindset is, and some of the keys in that. And while you're doing that, guys and girls, if you're watching, please feel free to send some questions in, and Dr. Bob will happily get round to them. So what is the one-shot mindset?
Well, let's talk about, you know, the most important number in golf. You know, I've said this many, many times over my career, is this shot right here. It's 1, because that is the present moment. And let's understand really what time is. Time is an ongoing sequence of actions taking place, all right? It's an ongoing sequence. And when we talk about playing one shot at a time, we're talking about this present moment. But this present moment has a lot of stages. It has, you know, a lot of components to playing one shot at a time. Here I've got a Kleenex box. And I think it's a perfect, you know, illustration of really what playing the one shot at a time mindset's all about. Here's my shot. This is the shot I'm facing. You know, I don't have a past. I don't have a future, okay? I have this shot. So if I'm going to play this shot, this is shot, you know, I'm playing with right now. Now I've got a whole box of capabilities, possibilities here, but the future hasn't come yet. What I have here is right here. So I'm going to take care of this shot. And after I have this shot done and I accept the result, I can actually put it behind me. That's the past. Now I've got my next shot. And that's really what one shot at a time is. It's playing one after one after one. Okay, that's a pretty good analogy, and that's what, you know, one of my mantras is all about. It's about playing one after one after one until you're done. Because one of the greatest pitfalls that we have in golf is many people play the game of, how am I doing? Am I winning? What's my score? What do I need to shoot? You know, what's going to be the score that makes the cut in order for me to qualify for this tournament? And what happens, that gets you into this total thinking, this result thinking versus this process thinking. Another way to think about it is, I've sort of got this string right here. And so many golfers are at the end of their rope, okay? And that's really what I am here. And the point of it is that this represents a golf round, okay? So I'm going to start here with one shot, okay? This is my one shot. This is really where I'm at right now, okay? So on this one shot, I'm going to create a plan. That's the first step in hitting, you know, a one-shot mindset. I'm going to create a plan. Now that plan means I'm going to assess and I'm going to estimate everything that I have. But when we start talking about time, I'm in the present moment. But what I'm actually contemplating is where I want my ball to go here in almost the immediate future. And in actually assessing all of my options for this plan, I may go back in my memory bank into the past to find out what's the very best shot for me to hit this shot. And I always caution people, when you go back into the past, and that's really where fear and all the bad stuff resides, as well as the good stuff, only bring back stuff that's going to help you in this moment right here. And so now when we actually create that plan, we now can actually go and rehearse that plan. And that's a physical stage. So the first part, creating, is being able to see the type of shot that you want. The second stage is being able to pre-rehearse that shot. Now, I didn't say rehearse, I said pre-rehearse. Pre meaning before. It's a rehearsal. And really what this is in neuropsychology and motor learning, we talk about neural priming. What neural priming is, it sort of primes the pump for you making the action that you want to make here in the immediate future. So neural priming is like little kids saying, ready, set, and that's really the go. all right? It's really getting you ready to hit that shot. So you rehearse in real time, the feel that you want for that shot. And the next thing you see in a one-shot mindset is the commitment phase. You'll see Tiger, you'll see Rory, you'll see Lydia, Michelle, you'll see the best in the world. They'll back off. What are they doing at this time? They are actually committing. They are making a pledge, a promise. This is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it, right now. So they are always processing in this moment. They're in the present moment, but they're actually thinking, this is what I'm going to do now. Now, once they commit, they can now step across what I call this imaginary line. I've talked about it for years, the trust line. I say I'm going to trust. And trust is a mental and physical skill that says, I'm going to let go of any conscious, intrusive thoughts, and I'm going to allow myself to do what I've already rehearsed back here. So then when I step in, my fifth step is to aim and align my body to my target and to be into my target, to look at my target, and then to execute, to hit that shot. And the final step of this shot here, Stuart, and for everyone watching, the final step is after you've hit that shot, you're not done. You now have to accept that shot. It is what it is. And here's the whole point about time. Time is based on the past, the present, and the future. And time is always flowing forward. We never get anything back, all right? So this, when we take this one shot, this shot is done. It's history. It's Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson. It's done. We can't get this shot back. And what we have to do then now is move on to the next shot, all right? Well, we're going to do the same thing for that shot. But then after that shot, boom, this shot. And then what we're really doing here, Stuart, we're really playing one shot at a time. We're stringing pearls. And it's almost like a fisherman, okay? At the end of the day, they have their catch. They hold up, their string of fish, all right? Hey, look how many I've caught. But they do their counting after the round is done, after the fishing's done. And that's really what we need to do. So there's a wonderful little saying about staying in the present moment. And it says, I have no future, I have no past. My goal is to make this moment last. And that is the one-shot mindset. This is all that we can control. We can't control what we've already done. That's history. That we cannot get that back. And I don't know how long we've been talking here. Maybe we talked, for 15, 20 minutes. But here's a fact. You will never get those 20 minutes back. I hope you've enjoyed it because you're never getting it back. Because time's always moving forward. That's why when I hear people say when they're playing around the golf, oh, I'm 3 over, I need to get it back to even par. No, you've got to quit thinking about back. You've got to be thinking where you are now and have this one shot that gets you going, moving forward. That's how you create positive flow, positive momentum. Because this right here, we don't know really how many shots, we're going to take today. This is just an endless pile of possibilities. But that's the whole point about, playing one shot at a time, is that it keeps you in the precious present. And that's why, it's kind of a play on words. This is the gift we give ourselves. Here's your present. It's the present moment. It's the gift we give ourselves to stay in this moment. And by doing that, it gives you the very best chance to make the smallest score, because what most people fall into the trap, they project into the future thinking, I need to shoot this, I need to do this, or they reflect back into the past. Oh, I can't believe, I 3-putted this last 3 greens. And they bring that trash with them into this moment. So that's really what we're trying to do with the one-shot mindset. Is it easy? No, not at all. It's tough to do, easier to talk about, but this is how I get people to understand it. It's one after one after one. And the most important shot that you have in golf, and the great ones, the Ben Hogans, the Jack Nicklauses, Tiger Woods, Mickey Wrights, Nancy Lopez, They always talk about the importance of this moment. And that's why it's so important to fall in love with this moment right now. And that is really, in a nutshell, the one-shot mindset.
No, that's brilliant. I think there was a question came in from Scott Worley earlier, about the mental routine. I think you've just knocked his question out of the park. There's another one that leads slightly onto that from Emily Hong. Obviously, to stay in that mindset, I would imagine, requires a lot of practice and a lot of dedication. And as you said, it's not easy. But what tips would you have to help somebody to come back to the present if they started mentally drifting away?
That's a great question, because a lot of people, find themselves sort of drifting and they sort of move away. A lot of times I've had like little rubber bands. I'll have people put like little rubber bands on. And when you find yourself sort of drifting away, I'll have them take that little rubber band and kind of snap them back into this moment. Others, it's just a realization that, hey, I am someplace where I don't want my mind to go, because that's the whole thing I've learned through many years, is that your mind wants to take you on this roller coaster ride, and it usually takes you someplace where you don't want to go, and at the end of the day, you want to throw up. So what you have to be able to do is take your mind for a ride and say, no, I don't want to go there. So you have to sort of collect yourself and remind yourself, hey, okay, I'm drifting. So you just sort of kind of ease yourself back into this centered focus. And that's really what concentration and focus is all about. And let me talk to Emily's question there. Focus is based on two things. It's based on, one, your attention, the energy that you're giving something at this point in time. And two, the second thing is your intention. What is it that you want to do? So when you have attention and intention together, now you've got this nice combination of focus. And now this is what I want to do right now. So if you find yourself drifting away, don't be sitting there beating yourself up and going, oh, I'm thinking bad stuff. Just gently bring yourself back, get into your procedure. And that's the great thing about a process and having a routine, because now you focus your energy on this moment. And that's really what getting through the fear. And we've talked about fear before, because most everyone focuses on expectations and results. And that's where they focus their energy around results, all right, everything. Now we're going to use that same energy to focus. So we're going to focus our energy around the routine, because the routine is a very systematic, structured way to take action steps towards achieving a certain goal. And that goal is to hit a successful golf shot. So we want to focus on execution and then accept the result. And that's how we get through the fear. But we do that one shot at a time. And one shot thinking is really the only way to think if you want to shoot lower scores. You always hear players say, well, I know I needed to shoot a 64. I mean, I've heard Tiger Woods, Jack Nicklaus, Arnold. I hear everyone talk about that. But when they're on the first tee, they're not looking at their caddy or whatever and say, all right, this is the first shot of a 65 today. No, they just tell themselves, let's be great today. Let's create our day one shot at a time. And I know I've got a number in my mind, but I'm not going to think about that number. I'm going to think about the greatest number that I can control right now, and that's one. So that's really how I would help Emily.
No, fantastic. There's two questions coming that are very similar to each other. You can maybe answer both of them in one go here, Doc. The first one was from Mike Greer, and it's, do you relax your concentration in between shots? And then James Leadbetter has asked, what are some techniques that you would recommend to relax, but also then focus on the one shot? So kind of joined together nicely there.
It's really, an interesting thing. Let's talk about a light switch, okay? A light switch. So many players hear about this Hogan, the Hogan-esque focus. He was focused for 4, 5, 6 hours. Woo. They think it's like turning on a light switch. And your focus is at a high intensity, a high brilliance, a high luminance, all right? I think the very best way to play golf and to save energy and to make sure that your mind is in the right place when it needs to be. And that means stepping into the shot for those 8 to 10 seconds. Because I'm always a real big believer in, yes, it's great to have a nice routine, but we really need to bring up this brilliance, this illuminance when we step into the ball. That's when we really need to be totally engaged with our target. Now, in between these shots, after the shot is hit, after we've accepted it and released it and put it behind us, instead of being at this light switch where we're up here, we need to be thinking more of a dimmer switch, a light switch, that in between shots, we sort of bring down this illuminance, we bring down the brilliance, we're saving energy. And so what happens for a lot of times, I like just sort of looking around, looking at things. We always talk about, take the time, smell the flowers, enjoy, the scenery. This is a big thing about time, and this is a big thing about anxiety as well. Years ago, there was a wonderful woman named Francine Shapiro back in 1986, 1987. And she was a counselor, psychologist. And she was noticing that when she went out and started taking walks, she would look around and she would look at different things. And what I know from sports vision is that when you have a saccadic movement, we have saccadics, which are little dots and dits, and then we have pursuits that are just smooth left to right movements or up and down. When we have these saccadic movements, they sort of take our mind off of negative images, of negative thoughts. So it's nice to actually, just to take, kind of a nice stroll, to look around, to look up at the clouds, to sort of, notice different things in between shots. But as you're stepping up to your golf shot, you can then just start kind of easing back into that focus where you're now starting to sort of look at, the conditions, look at your lie, look at, what you have in front of you. So now you're sort of working yourself back up into sort of that, turning on the light, turning on the illumination. So really golf is kind of like sort of surfing, as a matter of fact. It's sort of riding the wave. When you want to ride that wave, you're right here, you're riding it at the crest. And then after, the waves, subsides, you just sort of relax and you paddle back out and you get the next wave. So that's really what playing, great golf is all about. You're sort of relaxing in between, these moments, of clarity and high illumination.
Perfect. Great answers. I mean, there's so many golden nuggets from those few questions already. But another one here from James Ferraby. He says he has a question regarding his time competing. He worked very hard practicing, and in practice he would score under par most of the time. But when it came to tournament situations, he wasn't able to transfer his abilities and score in the same way. He said it seemed clear to him that it's psychological, but do you have any ideas of what may have caused that, or what kind of areas he could have worked on to help?
Well, here's my biggest thing, and I'm helping everyone with this. You have to ask yourself, what are your pre-tournament rounds, your prep rounds, your practice rounds? What are they for? I know a lot of young players and even veteran players still to this day, they want to see how they're scoring, all right? Right next to the day before they actually tee it up. And what happens a lot of times, they're playing great because the flag hasn't gone up yet. And they're fairly composed, fairly relaxed. They're doing everything they normally do. But then, when the flag goes up on tournament day, they are now thinking, I have to make a score. I've got to shoot a score. And the problem with having a great practice round and you play for score is that many times you're like 2 over for the first 3 holes, and you sort of start comparing that back and forth for what I did in the practice rounds. You're going, gee, at this point yesterday, I was already 1 or 2 under, and here I am at 2 over. So we start comparing, our present moment performance with past performance. So really what, I would tell James is you've got to actually use your practice rounds, your prep rounds, to understand one thing. You're just getting yourself ready so you can score effectively in this moment when it really counts. So I'm always trying to get people to understand, you practice like you play like you practice. So you really want to make sure that when you are practicing and getting ready for a tournament, that you're doing things that are going to help you perform. No one gets a check or gets a trophy for having a great warm-up round or a great warm-up or has been practicing well all that week. No one gets paid for that. You get paid for performance. So the biggest thing about performance is quit labeling like, oh, I made all these birdies yesterday. Oh, I need to make some pars and birdies today. It's a tournament. I've had so many players I've worked with over the years go, I have so much anticipatory anxiety, just not performance anxiety, anticipation anxiety. What do I need to shoot? Will everything show up? Will my game show up? I've even had players talk about their swing as if it's another person, and they'll be sitting here talking about this thing and go, I'll tell you what, my swing and I, we're going to kick some butt tomorrow. I'll tell you what, and then before they get ready to tee up, they're sitting around going, my swing hasn't showed up. Where's he at? He needs to show up. You are your swing, all right? You are your thoughts. And you just need to understand that if you have prepared well, then let's give ourselves the assurance. Let's give ourselves the emotional freedom to go out and play the very best we can. If you have a philosophy, a personal playing philosophy that says, I play to win, but I refuse to lose, meaning I refuse to give in to the apathy, to the whatever, to I just don't have it today. If you really stick to it and really grind it out and say, this is the best I can do today, now you're starting to talk about something we call in my world hardiness. We talk about grit. We talk about tenacity. We talk about relentlessness. That's really what, my training, that's really what my philosophy is all about. Because, I myself, even as a player, even as a performer, even as a coach, I hurt a little bit, when I don't put a good performance in. Doesn't mean I don't accept it. It doesn't mean I'm not critical of my performance. I give myself a critique. That's the whole secret to this game. It's not to be critical of yourself because the game's hard enough. You've got to be able to constructively critique yourself, give yourself the benefit of the doubt. It's a tough game, and know that at that moment in time, I did the very best I could. And at the end of the day, I can live, with my total. Because if I can do that, I can look in the mirror and go, you know what? Today is the best I can do. I can do better tomorrow. All right. And then you just sort of, let, everything else go. I mean, everybody, understands that this is a difficult game, and we're all trying to do the very best we can. So I would say two things. I think Nicholas, said it best. He said, how good would you perform if you never really beat up on yourself and that you always gave yourself positive input, even when things were going bad? He says, hey, anybody can be confident when you're playing well, but it's how confident, how successful will you allow yourself to be when things aren't going your way. And I have actually, been a huge, disciple of that type of thinking for a long time.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think the critique, is for the coaches listening as well. I mean, we're always looking to improve our coaching skills. I know you are constantly trying to evolve. Same for myself. It is kind of looking and going, well, I gave the best lesson I could at that time, but I'm going to be better tomorrow than I was today. But I'm going to take that time to reflect and review and refine kind of what I'm doing. So I think that advice from a coaching standpoint is huge as well. In terms of being able to,
Sure, I'm going to hit that because that's a huge, huge point right there for players, coaches, educators, parents, is that I always talk about good, better, best. All right. So when a player, like James, steps up on the tee, what's the most important thing that you have? You have your belief system. You have your thoughts. You have, your talent that you have developed. So when you step up on the tee, you better believe in your ability. You better believe that you're good. All right. And you do the very best you can all day. Now we can always look 2020 hindsight, armchair quarterback, and say, woulda, coulda, shoulda. I should have done this. I could have done that. We could always say we could have done better. But for me, the key piece in this puzzle is on every shot, did you give the very best that you possibly could that day? Did you? And I've asked so many of my great tour players, college players, even some of my top amateur players, have you ever played a round where you gave your absolute best and it really didn't come out, as well? And a lot of them will say, yeah. I go, in fact, I don't know if I've ever given around my absolute best effort. Is that even possible? Well, that's really the goal that we're striving, to attain. They don't show that statistic in any of the statistics, in golf. Did you really get your mind into the shot, into the putt, into the chip? Were you there 100% physically, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually? There's no statistic for that. So we have to sort of self-monitor that. So when I talk to my players, I ask them, did you give me your best? And they go, I gave my best today. And I go, good. Then you can accept that. You can live with that. And then they'll always look at me, but I can do better. I said, yeah, but that's for tomorrow. But today, that's, you gave your best. And I think even as an instructor, I'll have, several lessons, and people, will leave, and I'll be, driving home, and I'll be sort of reflecting on, the day and the things that we did during our sessions. And I'll say, boy, I wish I had said that. But I mean, hey, and I always tell people, listen, if you don't like, what you're hearing today, come back tomorrow. I'll be better tomorrow. But this is the best of Dr. Bob Winters that I can give you today. And I think people appreciate that. And I think that's what we have to do as players and as coaches. We've got to give ourselves, a little breathing room and say, hey, I'm doing the very best I can with what I have to work with. And so I think I've always liked the saying that angels fly high because they take themselves lightly. And I've always liked that, saying very much.
That's great. What's interesting there is you just talked about breathing room. In terms of correct or proper breathing, how important do you think that is to relax and refocus for the next shot? So you talked about the dimmer switch and up and down in terms of the intensity. What do you feel about the breathing there?
Well, I think breathing is such it is the regulator of the body. When we start talking about choking, I mean performance choking, and I've had an emergency medical background, as you know, and the point of it is when you cut off someone's airway, you're going to see a survival reflex kick in right away. So breathing is the self-regulation. It is what keeps people alive. So when we start talking about performance, how can I keep my performance alive? Good breathing techniques, good what we call sub-diaphragmatic breathing. It's lower breathing. It's sort of everyone sits there right now. You can put, like your hand on your tummy, all right? And instead of most people breathe incorrectly, they breathe up this way. That's not good breathing. What we want to do is we want to breathe so that you're almost pushing your stomach out. So breathe in and then breathe out. You should feel your tummy, come out a little bit. And so there's something called box breathing, is that you have an inhale for maybe 2 or 3 beats, then you sort of exhale 2 or 3 beats, then you inhale 2 or 3 beats, and you exhale 2 or 3 beats. And, Navy SEALs, SEALs training, Rangers, all of them go through sort of this very specific breathing exercises. Sharpshooters, marksmen, they go through these breathing exercises. And I think it's really important, to really have, great breathing. But then again, when you step into the shot, I don't think you need to be thinking something else. You don't need this cognitive process to say, hey, I need to breathe. But if you want to kind of bring yourself back, and it's sort of this creating this planned mindset and remind yourself, okay, just take a deep breath here. Let's slow things down here a little bit. Because what happens so often is that when people get excited, time either slows down or it speeds up. And really just sort of, deliberately slowing down your breathing, slowing down your pace, slowing down your walking, it helps you create a perception of control. And perceptions of control are huge, auxiliary statements that help create a feeling of confidence. When a person feels that they're in control, they feel that they can actually handle the situation. That's why when you're dealing with a person who has panic anxiety, they're breathing unbelievably fast. They're getting too much carbon dioxide in the brain. And so what you want to get in front of them, you get in front of them and you look at them, you go, watch me, breathe with me. And so it's that controlled breathing. That's why a lot of people say, well, I don't have a sports psychologist, I smoke. All right, You never see a person, and I'm not saying that you don't need to smoke, but that's really a reason, because if you smoke, you are going to cough. But that's what the smoking does. It sort of helps pace the breathing, and people go, oh, I feel so much better when I smoke. But we don't want that. We can do that without the negative effects of smoking. We can do sort of box breathing. So that's something that we can do.
No, fantastic. A question from Tim Milchich. Do you recommend the one-shot rule or the one-shot mindset for practice on the range, and if you're working on a certain technique?
Well, you've got a couple of different issues there. Are you working on technique, or are you working on the one-shot mindset? If you're working on technique, then work on technique, but make each ball count. I think that's a huge thing. I think you have to make each ball count. And I remember, Nicklaus saying, and I still go back, Tiger, Jack, two of the greatest golfers ever. Jack said he never hit a shot in practice without some purposeful intent. Now, I know so many of us, become automatic ball whackers, like the Happy Gilmore. We're kind of the ball whacker guy. But the point I'm trying to make is, if you really want to, improve your trust, improve your one-shot, focus, take at the end of your session, end of your technique session. Now let's work on developing trust. 20 balls, but there are 20 balls, and each one is a separate event. Each one should probably be to a different target, perhaps even with a different club. So you're taking the time to sort of go to your bag, get a different club. Go through your entire routine, do your breathing, do your assessment, create a plan, rehearse that plan, commit to that plan, trust that plan, and then step in and hit that shot, and then execute that shot and accept it. Now, after that shot is done, really ask yourself the question, was I really there? Was I 100% emotionally invested in that shot? If you weren't, okay, let's do a better job on the next shot. Because you see, what I know now from performance training these last 40, 45 years is that it is almost physically and psychologically impossible to duplicate a shot as you did a perfect shot before. Every shot is a new shot. Every shot is a new creation. And I know I have a lot of the golf pundits say, no, that's what repetition's all about. No, each shot, each moment in time is a new shot. And that's how you practice trust. That's how you practice self-discipline. You practice commitment on each shot. So do that for 20 balls. Then go out and go play. And tell me if there's not a difference in your level of commitment, in your level of trust, and your level of purposeful intent. If you can do that, now you've made a nice transfer from training that technique to really trusting your process, and that will allow you to go play.
It's interesting that just as you've been talking, there's 2-3 questions come in very, very similar from people that are find they're getting stuck with too many swing thoughts. They may be working on the game, or they're not sure, and they're tinkering around. And I think especially around the world at the moment, there's lots of people that can't get access to the golf course, and the amount of information on the internet and the social channels is huge. It's very easy for people to start tinkering with things that might not be great for them. What piece of advice would you have for people to try and limit or be able to control their swing thoughts when they're going to play?
For all of you out there who are tinkering with new clubs, tinkering with all of the new great swing thoughts you have, welcome to the party, because everybody's in this together. Everyone loves to tinker with new clubs. Everyone loves to see, wow, is this move going to add another 15, 20 yards to me? So you're not alone. You're not the Lone Ranger out there. So, but here's what you need to do. You need to sit down and really think about your game. When you have played your very best golf, was there a swing thought? Was there a cue? Was there a rhythm that you felt? Was there a song in your head? Now, what was going on? You need to sit down and write these things down, not text them, because writing it down, we know psychologically, writing something down in black and white with a pen, there's a different transfer of information, from your memory cortex here. So write it down. Now, if there's something that you really feel that is working and that it's something new, then incorporate that. But when we start talking about trying to transfer all this motor technique, what we understand is that simplicity works. And I've always been a big believer in the Kentucky Fried Chicken theory. If you're not familiar with Kentucky Fried Chicken, their marketing strategy was, we do one thing and we do one thing well, we fry chicken. And this is an advertisement for Kentucky Fried Chicken, but it is, an advertising slogan that will work in golf. If you've got one thing, one feel, back here behind the ball in the, what I call the rehearsal phase, you want to actually keep that thought in your mind. And as you're walking into the ball and you're aiming up and you're addressing, you have that one feel. Now, I remember, Stuart, years ago talking with the great Sam Snead. And I asked Sam, I go, Sam, we always talk about you having one of these great, groove swings, you're, fantastic, very flexible. Do you have any swing thoughts? And he looked at me and he kind of, grunted a little bit. And he goes, well, Bob, he goes, all I ever wanted to do was be oily. And I said, oily? He goes, yeah, oily, just back and through. That's what I was thinking as I was looking down my target, and I had a target focus. When I came back to the ball, he goes, I just wanted to be oily. And he goes, I just kept thinking about these balls, these ball bearings in a fan, or in a fan, and they're all greased up and they're nice and oily, and they allow everything to move in a circle really nice and smooth. And even though I'm not doing Sam's voice, justice, that's really how he sounded when I was talking to him. I go, that's really interesting. He goes, all this stuff about this and that, he goes, you can get yourself locked up. And I said, analysis and paralysis by overanalysis. He goes, exactly. He goes, most people know, it's just swinging it back and swinging it through. He goes, it's good to have a couple things. I've worked on several things. He goes, but the thing that worked for me was to be oily. And what I took from that was everyone needs to develop 2, 3, perhaps even 4 swing cues or tempo cues or rhythm cues that they have in their storage warehouse, in their memory bank, so that when things go bad, we can actually go back to that. So that's sort of my feeling about that. But when you're swinging and when you're stepping in playing golf, it's one. And I've always loved that City Slickers movie. He says, the key to life, he goes, it's one thing. But everybody has to find out what that one thing is for themselves.
No, fantastic. I mean, great piece of advice. And I think, for us in Leadbetter Golf, I look after the training of all of our coaches, and one of our values, we have 3 key values, and one of them is strive for simplicity, because in the world of coaching, it's so easy to over deliver and give too much information. And I think for any of the golfers out there that are watching today, and they may be in that situation where they've got too much going on, we've got a great video swing analysis offer on at the moment. If you check it out on university.leadbetter.com, our team of certified instructors will be able to give you some simple advice and help you with your routine. So check that out if you need some help. But we're going to go for one last question, Doc. We've got about 5 minutes left. There's an interesting question, and I've thought this while I'm watching you on the screen. The picture at the top of the wall behind you, the black frame, Camilla Surtees asked, what is the picture behind you, and does it relate to your teaching?
Camilla, that's a great question. This picture was taken by one of my young students who was a chess master at the age of 12. His name is Theo Boris. Theo Boris is one of only 4 or 5 young astronomers in the world who go around and take different pictures. So when they had the total eclipse a couple of years ago, he was up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and he took, that picture of the eclipse. And it's funny because I've always thought about that. You have, the sun and the moon, and they are totally laid over each other. But that was a perfect moment in time. But yes, that's sort of really, I always talk about, my players, when they have a golf ball, what's the one thing they should actually mark it with? I always like to put like a little circle with a 1 inside of it to always remind them playing one shot at a time. But that's really what that picture is. And I've just been really blessed. Theo's also a great little athlete, great little golfer, but a fantastic astronomer, and looks like it's a pretty good picture taker there too. So it was just something. So thank you, Camilla, for that. Yes, absolutely.
No, Dr. Bob, it's always a pleasure to chat with you. We've been going for a long time. There's a few questions we didn't get to, but unfortunately we can't get to everyone. We've been inundated, but there's quite a few of the questions that I think we have overlapped or touched upon. So hopefully everybody that's watching there can get something out of it. And the one-shot mindset, invaluable to your golf game. I really like that. Mark your ball with a 1 little circle around it, just to remind you each time. Dr. Bob, if you had a parting comment before we wrap things up for the golfers and the coaches listening, what would it be?
I think the most important thing in this world, and it's a golf skill and a life skill, is what I've learned and has become my trademark. My trademark is change your mind, change your game. And what that means is that when you change your mind about the things that you're thinking about, and you want to change them in a positive direction, is that the moment you start thinking about purposeful, positive information that you give yourself, the things around you change as well. So you are what you think you are. You change your mind, change your game. If you think that you can become a really good player, think about that. And it's funny, Stuart, because I want to finish on this, something I was going through all of my files last night from the late 70s to early 80s. I had written something down in 1982, and it says, don't let others determine your success. Success is about what you want to become. It isn't about comparing yourself to others and looking around and going, how am I doing? How am I doing? Stay true to your conviction. So for all of you who really want to get better at the game, please, come see us here at the Leadbetter Academy. Come see, people like Stuart, see people like myself. We've got a whole world of the world's best professionals under, the world's best teacher in David Leadbetter. And I got to tell you, and if you do that, you're going to actually make some great choices, because always at Leadbetter, we say we help you swing better, play better, score better. And today, hopefully, we've helped you think a little bit better. Thanks, Stuart, for letting me be on today.
No, we really appreciate you, and you're so gracious with your time. Guys, if you want to check out and learn more, leadbetter.com, you'll be able to find more information about Dr. Robert Winters and also all of our certified instructors at headquarters and around the world. So we hope that you're going to stay safe and stay healthy, and tune in next time for one of our next webinars. Dr. Bob, thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart. See you soon.